come in. Waiting for Kojo to come in so I can invite him into it. Can you guys see me? The lighting here seems really bad. There we go. Koj, please request me.
Yeah.
Good. You're right.
You're an idiot. No, good. I'm just sending a live to people, innit? So people can join in. Hey, no?
Good. How are you?
I'm alive and well.
How's your
I'm
day?
alive and well. You feel me?
How's your day been?
Smooth. Editing.
Good.
That's what I've been doing, you get me? What you been on?
Working from home.
Haven't we all? I've been getting back problems.
What did you say?
I said I'm even getting back problems. I went for a run. It was not the one.
What, today?
Yeah, but my back was even hurting, cuz.
You know what? I've realized now that I've not been up and walking a lot. When I walk for like longer than 10 minutes, my back hurts.
Oh, honestly, it's shambolic.
No, my fitness levels are
Shambolic.
disgusting.
All right. Okay, so yeah, have you pinned the topic down below?
Okay.
Pin the topic. What we're going to talk about. It's about to get real tight, real quick for a lot of people. So,
One second. Koj. Oh, where did the boy go? Oh. Koj's internet likes to act up every time we go live. Every single time. So give us a second. I'm just going to invite him back into the live.
sorry about that. I got kicked out. Yo, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see.
Beautiful stuff.
We even have a question box today.
Oh, it's not working?
No, it's working.
It's working?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Good.
Fantastic. Like that.
Yeah, so we get started.
Huh?
You want to say a prayer before we get started?
Yeah, let me say it. Okay. Father, we thank you in the name of Jesus, Lord. We pray that, Lord, today, as we enter into the fold of concerning church and stuff, Father, we pray that, Lord, we are sensitive, and that, Lord, that we operate in a spirit of love, and that, Lord, that we operate in a spirit of wisdom in dissecting this topic. Father, we pray that, Lord, you comfort those who are listening to this topic, who have been touched by this, affected by this. And Father, we just pray that, Lord, that you speak unto them the words that they need, God, in this season. In Jesus' name, amen. All right.
Amen. So before we even get started, I guess I would like to do like a little disclaimer and a little trigger warning.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about a lot of sensitive stuff, you know. We're going to be talking about rape, sexual violence. And because we know the prevalence of these things, we know that actually about 1 in 3 women would have experienced this and about 1 in 8 men. And so I just want you to really take care of yourself. Don't feel like you have to be confined to the space. Don't feel like you have to be here. Stay here. If you have any questions, please ask them in the question box. If you don't feel comfortable asking them in the question box, because when you do, your app does come up, go on the Hassana website and ask them there on the chat box. That's anonymous. So I won't know who you are. Nobody else will know who you are. And then I can read them out. I'm on the app now, so I can see when you message in. And yeah, just take care of yourself. You know, if you need to grab a glass of water, please do so. If you need to just log off, please do so. And if you at any point would like to access support services, get in touch with myself or Kojo. I'll be putting them up anyway on our story later. But if you would like to access any support services, if you would like to talk to anyone about it, to myself, to Kojo, to an anonymous service, let us know. We will link you. So yeah, you are not in this alone. So cool. Let's get
Cool. Can you hear me all right? Is it smooth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's when I hear myself, it's like, but that's fine. If you can hear me fine, that's fine. So obviously, I know we're talking about culture, church. Do you want to define what rape culture is, so we can deal with the pieces?
I guess in really simple terms, it's basically an environment where rape is normalized or acceptable, or accepted as inevitable. So that's what rape culture is. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that society or people promote sexual violence themselves, but they perpetrate it by having unexamined or believing in myths or having unexamined views on challenge views that they carry on. And so it's not that they're saying, hey, rape is okay. You know, that's not what most people say, I guess. A lot of people don't say rape is okay. You know, that's what we're advertising here. But there is a lot of views that we hold, a lot of things that we do that kind of push rape culture.
Okay.
Feed into it.
Okay. Do you have any examples in terms of rape culture?
Yeah, I guess it would be victim blaming, for example. You know, even when we don't do it outwardly, we don't say it's your fault, but we say, but what was she wearing though? It was her fault, but you kind of have, you know, believing in myths, not educating ourselves when it comes to that topic. Sexual objectification, for example, locker room talk. You know, men will be men, boys will be boys, for example. Jokes, you know, I remember like recently there was a few colorist tweets that came up on Twitter and it was a whole hooray. But one of the ones that really stood out to me was, it said, what's funny? A black girl being raped, a dark skinned girl being raped. Things like that, they feed into rape culture.
Okay.
Some lyrics, songs, porn. Yeah, pornography is a big problem. Selling ideas of what sex should be like, and when it's not like that, people will do whatever it takes to create that atmosphere. Sometimes they'll do it by force.
Okay. So, like, obviously, I guess the joke that we kind of make amongst us, like us boys, you know, like I don't know how do I bring it into an example?
You know what? It's even little things like having a conversation with your boys, even when you're younger. You know, when you're like 12 years old. Did you see so and so in PE? Did you see her breasts? Like, you know, you're already talking about people like you having entitlements per se. And it's things like I say, when you're walking past a woman, if you were going to walk past another man, you wouldn't hold him at the waist, would you?
No.
You hold him at the waist to walk past. You don't need to do that. You can just say, excuse me. However, feeling so entitled to touch somebody that you have to hold them by the waist to move past them, even though you don't have to, is a choice that you make because you don't do it to everyone. That is one of those things that feeds into rape culture. You know, it's being normalized. And when you speak on it, it's not that deep. People will tell you it's not that deep. But somebody just touched me without my consent in a way that they would have never touched you as a man. And so that means that it is that deep. The person felt like they could do that. And the person knew that there would be no consequences for them. If they would, you know, a rape culture is that thing where men feel like there is no consequence for their actions. The best example, for example, is when we're talking about black culture and black lives. You know, when white people do things, and know there will be no consequences. How can you hurt somebody, and unless there's a social media campaign, nobody is charging you with any crime? Because you know you can get away with it. You have that power. You feel like you can get away with it. And that's similar to rape culture. Men feel like they can get away with it because really and truly, nobody will say something. And even if they do, a large amount of people will be on their side. Might not do that directly, but they'll be like, oh, but technically it's not that deep. But we all do it. Then you all need to stop doing it. It's wrong. So, yeah.
Would, as a question back randomly, would the policing of, let's say, for instance, I think I was having this conversation with someone recently, how men are allowed to talk sexually quite openly, but then we police women in how they talk. Would that come into, I guess, small foundations in terms of getting towards rape culture in a sense?
Yeah, technically it does. You know, what we're seeing is that men are open to objectifying women and talking in a certain way and having sex with as many people as they want to have, even in the church. Even in the church, we see this. Men will be fornicating left, right, and center. Not saying we all don't do it, but men will be fornicating. It's the woman that gets pregnant that is the problem. Do you know what I mean? Already we've shifted blame. It takes tango, yet only one person deals with the consequences of that act. You know what I mean? Like, only one person is shamed. You know, we will be left with the consequences of having a child. But a child is a blessing anyway. We'll be having to take care of the blessing. We'll be having to take care of the child. Whereas the man will be maybe benched for a few weeks and then he'll go back to playing drums.
Why are you coming off the drummers for, man?
I've been telling you to stay away from these musicians, ladies. For years. Stay away from these musicians. Don't fall for them. Please. Please.
No, I agree that though. I agree that. I guess then obviously as well, because obviously we're talking about culture. I know last time we defined it, but I think it'd be really good for you to define it once more again. Because there's some key within it that I think a lot of people don't know. For instance, whether there needs to be verbal no, you know, that kind of thing. Define what rape is, and then define there's a little mentality.
Okay, so if you were to, in fact, all of you should know this definition because most of you were at the live 4 weeks ago, yeah? So really and truly, I want to hear your answers in the comment section, please. What's the definition of rape? Before I say it, please answer. Because we spoke about it. But the definition of rape is technically penile penetration. So penetration of the penis into the vagina, anus, or mouth without reasonable belief and consent, or without consent. So penetrating somebody with your penis into their mouth, their anus, or their vagina without consent. So that's rape. You know, plain and simple. Which means that if you look at that definition, technically what it's saying is that if we're talking in very plain gender terms, being very careful here, very plain gender terms, that means that a man could rape another man, and a man could rape a woman, but a woman couldn't rape a man. Because it has to be penile penetration. And so the reason why this definition is formed this way is because it acknowledges that actually women disproportionately, you know, unfairly experience sexual violence compared to men. 1 in 3 girls or women would have experienced sexual violence before they're even 16 in their school uniform. So we're seeing that actually men are perpetrating that violence against women. But even when men are victims, it is other men that are perpetrating that violence against them. So we're seeing that men are the common denominator here. That control, you know, that feeling of I can't do that, you know. And so, yeah, that's where we're seeing the problem, that actually men perpetrate that violence against women and men. And they're not being held accountable for it. And
so go on. Carry on.
Go on.
So I want to ask a question. Can a woman rape them?
So can a woman rape another man? A man?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so technically, a woman can sexually assault a man, but a woman, in legal terms, couldn't rape a man. Now, I understand that actually that's not fair because some women do perpetrate violence, and we shouldn't be naming people's experiences for them. I don't believe in that. I believe that if a woman does something to a man, it's just as bad as a man doing it to a woman. And so, and we would call it rape. However, if you were to go to court, they would call it sexual assault.
Okay.
Somebody asked a question. Oh, okay, we've answered the question. It was what is rape culture? The culture of rape. And I was saying that basically rape culture is just a term that describes an environment where rape is normalized or accepted as inevitable. So it's not going out and saying rape is cool, rape is good, but it's saying or believing in myths, believing in false information, not educating ourselves about it. And those beliefs going unexamined. Nobody really saying anything about it.
Okay, cool. I'm going to come back because my sound is doing ticky, ticky, ticky. So give me a second. I'm going to come back in. Okay. All right.
Kojo's the only person always suffering with this internet. Where is he? Honestly, Kojo's internet has been acting up for a month now. Please, Kojo, we're waiting for you, please. It's always bad. Always. Yeah, you're moving like Ted Riley. You really are. Wait, where is he? You're here. Okay, let me invite you. See how your people are coming for you. I've invited you. Please pick up. Hey! What network are you with? What provider?
Is that right?
Yeah, what provider are you with?
Huh?
What provider are you with?
Brother, Sky, brother. I don't know what's going on, cuz. It's moving mad. I don't know, it's Sky, it's moving mad. The Lord doesn't want the enemy.
Yeah, so basically that is where we're seeing, rape culture and what it looks like. And
Okay. So we spoke obviously a little bit about rape culture and submission. We didn't speak about that in the last one. No. Do you want to go into that a little bit more?
So, boy, your pastors will be coming for me.
But
you know what? The problem that we have is that rape culture really feeds into the church and out of the church. And what we're seeing is that mostly we see it when it comes to sermons preached to women. Yeah. So first of all, we have church conferences all the time, yeah? And when men have church conferences about your goal, about your purpose, about how you can be men of God, how you can be like Paul, how you can be a Lion of Judah. But when we have conferences about submission, how can we become a Proverbs 31 woman? How can we marry? It's like everything we do revolves around marriage, but God did not create us just to marry. As cold as you men are. But as a church, we don't grow up like that. We don't grow up with those messages. Even when we do, how many women actually get to preach in churches? Like I always say this, like people say, no, I'm not doing it on purpose. That's not the point. I do want women to preach, but we know how important representation is. When people weren't showing us in Disney and Marvel movies, we understood representation really well. When you understood how happy we were when we had Black Panther, when we had the first Black Disney princess, we got all excited because we understood how important representation is. But when it comes to the church, suddenly it's not as important anymore. It's important that little girls see women preaching. It's important that little girls see women at leadership positions, speaking, preaching, praying, not being benched because they're women, and even like when we look at churches claiming that women are not supposed to be teachers and blah, 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 anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
Mm.
We had that conversation with Kyle a few days ago. But the problem we have is false doctrine.
Mm.
You know, most churches don't know why they don't want women to preach. It's just something they've always done. You know, I used to go to a church, a Ghanaian church, and women weren't allowed to be pastors. And when you ask those questions, like when we went to youth camp and you would ask those questions, people don't actually know why they believe what they believe. It's because it's always been done. And I'm to a point where I'm challenging myself. Do I believe this because it's the word of God and I truly believe it? Or do I believe it because my parents have believed it and my grandparents have believed it and everyone And the thing with women in the church or women's roles in the churches is that actually we believe things because our churches believe them, because our pastors have said it. And so they gave us one scripture where Paul said women should not speak, and suddenly we didn't go into study it more. That was the word. And for God knows how many years women weren't allowed to preach or be leaders in the churches.
Or open their mouth.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And then we're also seeing, you know, and then it becomes uncomfortable to call that behavior out, because if you behavior out, it's almost like you're being disobedient, you know. Yeah, here we go. This is why we don't want women to preach, because they're always speaking out on things they shouldn't be speaking out on. But that's not the truth. We're just calling behavior out, you know. When it comes to submission, for example, the way the church teaches submission, some churches, let me know, the way some churches teach submission is not the way God intended it. The way God intended it. And so, oh, sorry, I'm getting messages through the live chat, so thank you guys for messaging through the live chat. But yeah, it's not the way God intended it.
Oh, Chris, pin the title before you start. Pin the title, sorry.
So the
topic title, yeah. People know what it's open. Talking about submission and rape culture as a bit. Okay, though. There we go. Beautiful. India.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like Clara said, you know, you become a problem child, like Anita is saying as well. You know, the problem that we see is that actually we can't speak out on these things, especially if we're women. So you see that there's this injustice being done towards you, but when you speak out, you're also a problem. Reminds me so much, almost like black and white people. Everything about this reminds me so much of it, because it's like, as black people, we see these microaggressions, we see people coming at us at offices, but when we speak out about it, it's like we are the problem. We are always complaining, or England is the least racist country in the world. We can't speak out about these things. And same with women. Women can't speak out in churches about this thing that they're noticing that doesn't seem fair towards them. And teach about submission. You know, I know a lot of people who have gone to marriage counseling and have been told by their pastors that if their husband wants to have sex, they just have sex.
Let's talk about it.
How is that right? How, as a man of God, are you advocating for a woman to be raped? Because rape in marriage is a thing. You can rape your wife. It's a thing. Your wife has the right to say no. She has the right to say, I'm not in the mood. Even if she doesn't. I've noticed that a lot of women that I work with will say, you know, I tried to tell him that I had a headache. I tried to tell him that I'm tired. And I was like, did you really have a headache? No. Were you really tired? No, I just didn't want to. So why can we not just say we just don't want to? Because we just don't want to. It's not good enough for men, because they've been taught that that's not a good enough excuse. You know, we now have to make up something. We're on our period. Now we have to make up that we have a headache. Now we have to make up that something is wrong with us. Really and truly, we're just not in the mood. But we don't feel comfortable. How can we not feel comfortable to tell you that I'm just not in the mood? It's almost like you asking me to go to the cinema with you. And I said, you know, and I start making excuses. Oh, actually, you know what? I've got this work that I have to do. And you're like, but Chris, you said you would do it, man. You said you would come to the cinema with me. And I'm saying, you know what? I really do want to go to the cinema with you, but you know what? I have to watch my little dog. And I'm making all the excuses. Did I explicitly say no? I didn't. But I made all the excuses that really meant to no. And I realized that actually what the culture we're in now is that we are seeing that women are making excuses to get away from sex when they shouldn't have to. They should just be able to say, no, I'm not anymore. Man should respect that. Yeah, enough. Making excuses in itself shows us that actually men have put us in a position now where that's not enough, where we will face consequences if it's just a no. And that's the problem that we're having. That's all they've been taught, to provide and reap the benefits of all their provisions. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Men are not accountable at all. Men, we don't hold men accountable at all. And they don't hold themselves accountable. Let me be real, coach. Like, so back in the garden, God is the wife you gave me. The cheek. Did you not eat the apple? You were the one that got the instruction, first of all, yeah? The instruction, let's get that right. You put it on wrong to Eve. And then when God called you out, you said, it's the wife you gave me. A lack of responsibility, a lack of accountability from back in the garden. Here we are. How many years later? It's still a lack of responsibility, still a lack of accountability. We have men in the church saying that they can't focus on the word because somebody's wearing a skirt. When you go to work, do your colleagues not wear skirts? Do you tell them to go and change? Word because I'm wearing a V-neck t-shirt. When you go to Westfield, do women not wear V-neck t-shirts? Do you stop them to tell them to go home so you can shop them? No, you don't. It's because you are not responsible and not accountable. And in the church, you've been made to feel like a king. You can get away with it. You can say those things and nobody will call you out on your behavior. Because baby you and stroke your back. And that's the rape culture we're talking about within the church. It's unhealthy. How about, as a man, close your eyes and practice self-control, just like you would outside of the church. You know, just outside of the church, you would practice self-control. In your office, at work, you don't tell people how to dress. Practice self-control. Go to the beach, you don't tell people to put on jumpers. You practice self-control. Same way you can practice that self-control inside the church. And if you can't, then I really feel like you should pray and fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And maybe God will reveal something to you. I don't know. Whatever you need.
Coming back to the point about marriage. Let's say like the pastor says, but you know, your body's his body's yours. You should just be able to, you know, give it to him.
Before you even continue that, somebody said, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, ? Daniel, I totally agree with that. We should all be modest. You know, we should all be modest. But I am not modest so that you can be happy. I am modest so glorifies God. Modest for you. I'm not modest so that your eyes can focus on something. You know, I am not modest because I'll find a husband. I am modest so that I can glorify my Father in heaven. And if I'm modest for any other reason, it doesn't make sense anyway, because I'm not modest for the true intention. And so, yes, we strive to be modest. We strive to be, you know, great in all we do. You know, we strive to have that relationship with God where we're dressed in a modest way. Things sometimes go left. Honestly, sometimes you leave the house with something on, it looks all right, and then once you're on the bus, you realize, woo, that didn't look like that when I was leaving the house. It happens. Do you get what I mean? And also, not everyone that comes to the church is safe. People are still learning. And so we can't be putting them to the side, telling them what you're wearing is wrong. No, God will do that when the time is right. Things that I was wearing before are not things I'm wearing today. Things I'm wearing today will not be things I'm wearing tomorrow. As I'm growing in my trust and my relationship with God, He's convicting me Himself. He's saying, do you really need to wear that? It's not a man's job to be sitting in church telling a woman what to wear and what not to wear. Because of your own lust. That's your personal problem. Not ours. But sorry, yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to just go back to your point about women not having to say an excuse. So obviously we're talking about rape culture and rape. Let's say husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. The girl doesn't say no, but she gave him something happened. What is that?
So let's say a boy and a girl
Yeah.
are they?
I was boyfriend and girlfriend. Say boyfriend and girlfriend.
So boyfriend and girlfriend. Girlfriend didn't say no.
Yeah.
That girlfriend didn't want it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the person that is initiating sex. It's their responsibility to gain consent. So it's your responsibility. If you're initiating sex, it's your responsibility to make sure that the person has consented. So the question shouldn't be, did she say yes? The question should be, did she say yes? That's the legal question. Legal benchmark is for you to gain consent.
Wow.
So it won't be about when you get to court, did she say no? It will be about when did she say yes? And if she says, you have a problem. And also, yes might not look like it. I get that, So, like the example I always use, if you Love Island, the Christmas version. Oh, Love Island, I missed it. But the Christmas version, the winter version. Luke was about to touch Shanice when they went into the highway, and he said, "Is it okay if I touch you?" Touch you. That's what we call consent. Now she has the chance to say yes or no, or she might pull herself away, which kind of shows that actually, no, that's not something I like. Do you get what I mean? And I think it's the same way with consent. Consent is not always a yes. Sometimes it is body language. You're touching you, you're taking off my clothes, I'm taking off your clothes after marriage. But yeah, you're taking off my clothes, I'm taking off your clothes, we're both active. Cool. We both want it. But it is your job to actively seek my consent if you're initiating sex. Same way, if I'm initiating sex, it's my job to actively seek your consent. And so if you haven't sought my consent and actually I am not comfortable with it, just because I didn't say no doesn't mean that you didn't rape me.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't have to know and you continue for it to be rape.
Oh.
So let's define consent before we continue. What's consent? Consent is agreeing to something by choice and having the freedom capacity to make that choice. Agreeing to something by choice, and I have the capacity and the freedom to make that agreement, to make that choice. What does capacity look like? Capacity looks like, am I conscious in the first place? Am I asleep? Am I so gone that I actually don't know what's going on? Am I drunk? Am I high? Am I old enough to consent? Am I 16 yet? Are you my age mate or are you over 18? Even if I'm 16? Do I have the capacity to, do I have any disabilities? And so I might be over 18, but I still can't legally consent. So that is capacity. And if we're talking about freedom, we're talking about, do I have the physical freedom to get away from you? Do I have the mental freedom to get away from you? Consent is only consent if I can say no without facing consequences. If my no results in a consequence, then my no is not free. I have to say yes. Because my no will cause something to happen. And so I might say yes or I might not say anything at all, but either way, it's not because I wanted to, it's because I had to. And so I did not have the freedom to say no, and therefore my consent is void. Even if I said yes, but I didn't have the freedom to say no, my consent is void. And that's what we see in the Bible. We spoke about this last time, but when we talk about Tamar, Tamar, when her brother is coming to rape her, I don't say sleep with her. And that's another thing before I even continue. A big part is we don't use the right language. Rape is rape. Sex in its very nature is consensual. You can't have non-consensual sex. There's no such thing. Sex in its nature is a consensual thing. Rape is rape. And so somebody made an example. Somebody said you wouldn't say breathing swimming and non-breathing swimming. It's swimming or drowning. And so same with sex and rape. There is no such thing as non-consensual sex. It's just rape. But when we call it non-consensual sex, it sounds nicer in our ears. Again, we're feeding into rape culture. We're changing the language, we're feeding into false beliefs of what it is. But even going back to Tamar, what I was going to say is that, you know, when Tamar's brother was coming to rape her, and she stopped him and she said, you know what, at least go and ask our father if I can marry you. Surely he will let me marry you. Actually, in the Old Testament, it was you couldn't marry your sister.
Yeah.
The thing, she knew that. It's not that she didn't know. She's the daughter of a king. You know, all the rules. But she was trying to negotiate her way out of the situation. And so her response sometimes is translated as consent. That, oh, but if he was going to marry her, she would have slept with him. No, she knew she couldn't marry him. She knew it was against the law. But she was trying to negotiate herself into a better situation. And so we find ourselves sometimes saying yes or agreeing to something because we're too scared to say no. And so when we have these conversations with people, it's not about whether they said yes. Where were you at when you agreed or didn't agree? You know, rather than, oh, she said yes, oh, no, she said no, that's end of story. Somebody asked a good question. Somebody said in the live chat option, what about okay, guys, you can ask question when you hit the question mark below here. But yeah, if you want to send an anonymous question, you don't want anyone to know it's you, even I won't know, you can send it to this address, and there is a live chat button on it, so you can ask anonymously. But somebody said, what about women in the church? Because they also perpetrate rape culture, and I agree with that. You know, in the church, what we see, or women in culture, we have been taught a certain thing, so we carry it over. So even in the church, when there is somebody, so for example, recently we went to an event, me and a few friends, and we got there, and my friend was wearing a beautiful black dress. Yeah, wonderful, beautiful black dress. My friend has a wonderful body, body of God, beautiful everything. And so whatever she wears will look a certain way because she's just so nice. And so we got to the church, and one auntie called me to the side and said, tell your friend to close her legs or something like that, or to do something so her knees wouldn't be showing, just her knees. I ignored her. I absolutely ignored her. I pretend I didn't hear her. She called me back to the second time. I pretend I didn't hear her again because I'm not about to do that. Then out of nowhere, she came and put a sheet on her leg. This is somebody who's come to the church for the first time. You don't know whether she's saved. You don't know what she believes in. You don't know what brought her to the church. You don't know what previous church hurt she's experienced. You don't know. And yet, this is one thing that you've come to do. You know, and it's quite hurtful. My friend was... It's quite hurtful. What are you implying? Because her legs she wasn't showing anything. That dress could have been worn to an interview, could have been worn anywhere. And it's not acceptable, that kind of behavior. Like I always say, I dare somebody to cover me up in church. Like, have a serious discussion about it on the pulpit. Seeing as you want to embarrass me. Seeing as that's the conversation you want to have, let's have it. And I feel like those conversations we need to be having, that's actually not okay. That's not okay. So yeah, even stuff like that, women, yeah, you're right. Women do that. And so again, it's because they have false beliefs, they believe in myths, you know, it's the victim blaming behavior. They do that a lot in African churches. It's very rude. Some of them even come and try just because, girl, I hear you. Yes, it's so rude. It's so uncomfortable. First of all, how can you just touch me? You don't know me from anywhere. Most of them won't even ask you for your consent. Women also need to ask each other for consent. Don't just touch me. If this was a white person, you wouldn't have just gone and touched them.
That's true.
You feel too comfortable with me. So don't just come and touch me. It's not right. Let's teach people that actually you can't just go touching them. Speak to them if you want to. Even then, I don't think you should be having these conversations. You don't know the person from Adam. Like, if you're going to do something, speak. Use your words. Amen.
I think someone put a comment here, and I think it'd be very good to discuss. Macarius Daga, but it's interesting because growing up, movies and pop culture, etc., taught men that you can persuade her to press.
Yeah, Mark.
Talk a little bit about that. Is it wrong to persuade?
You know what? It's coercion. Like, it's coercion. I know there's a lot of movies that feed into it, like she said no the first time, I'm going to keep going until she says yes. And you know what? I had a client once that her and her boyfriend spoke about, having sex in a certain place. Maybe let's say the beach. When the time came, she realized that actually I'm not on it. I'm looking at the sand, I'm looking at the wind, it don't look as appetizing as people on the movies, innit? So actually I'm not in it. And he goes, oh, come on, man. I brought you all the way to the beach so that we could do this. Come on, man. Why are you such a killjoy? Rare. For like a good hour. He was nagging and nagging and nagging. And they couldn't even have a good time. Because everything she said would lead to, but see, I brought you all the way to the beach, driven here, paid petrol, done this, done that, bought you a picnic, bought this food, you're taking a day off work, and you won't even do this thing that you wanted to do. And she ended up doing it. Now, the
persuasion
question is this genuine consent?
Is that not persuasion?
It is coercion.
Coercion, okay.
Yeah, you have coerced somebody into sleeping with you. You've raped somebody because you've coerced them. This is not something they wanted. And in movies, we see that a lot where it's like, oh, let's chase people and whatnot. And you know what I would say? Listen, we don't play chase games in 2020 anymore, yeah? Too many legal things going on out here.
If you want it, you want it. If you don't want it, you don't want it. Justice we need.
We can't be out here doing the chase game, doing let me ask her until she gives up. Let's not play those games. Let's keep ourselves safe. There's no, leave her. If she changes her mind, she should come and look for you.
Hey.
He says no, leave him. If he changes his mind, he can come and look for you. Let's not do this whole chase of, but you said yes, but come on, just the tip. Let's not play those games.
Yo, that's a real one though.
Yeah, let's just put just the tip, and before you know it,
the whole thing's in.
Yeah, and it's awkward because
who
consented, who didn't, what happened here?
That's real.
Yeah, and someone said it's not just African churches, also Caribbean churches. You're right, and even in the white churches, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah, but the white churches are less likely to put something on your leg. That's the black churches, African churches.
You'll see it on the screen. No, I get that. Okay, so even talking about chase games, I guess to kind of even do a flip side, you know what? Some girls like to, play the hard to get thing, the no is not really a no thing. So how's a brother meant to know? I'm playing devil advocate, by the way, guys. I do not play this game.
How's a brother meant to know? Take her for her word.
Okay.
If she says no, just leave it at a no. Like, we live in a society where nobody can afford to make these mistakes. For you to look out for yourself, and just decide that actually that's not something I'm going to do. Also, it's very immature. Do you really want to be dating somebody who can't communicate with you? Let's be real. It's immature if you want to play the chasing game. So, you know what? Let's date mature people and protect yourself. Don't go into situations like that might end up in one way or the other. We don't need to be doing that. If somebody says no, then it's a no. And sometimes, people, I've noticed, men like to believe it's a chase game. Women really mean no sometimes, Majority of the time, they mean no. A chase game is a no. You just want to believe it's a yes because you can't fathom that somebody will be saying no to you. It's not chasing. It's a no. It's not a movie. And that's why movies and porn have destroyed our view on actually what it is. We see movies, what we see in porn is not what actually happens.
Okay.
Women mean it when they say no. Is a no. Keep it moving.
Okay, so let's even talk a little bit about the influence of porn, because obviously I'm sure a lot of people in this chat, as I have done, have watched porn in the past, have been shaped by it, and know what it's about. How would porn influence rape culture?
Sorry, I was chewing so that I couldn't hear you.
No worries, no worries. Obviously, talking about porn, how has porn shaped or contributed towards rape culture?
I think it's the view that, the things that we're watching, we're seeing that men are chasing women, men are slapping up women, depending on what porn you like. There's various types of porn. I'm not advocating for you to go look for it. Stay celibate. Stay true. I just want to say that, guys. I pray upon your life. Amen.
Amen.
Tonight, try it. May your laptop break down. May your phone break down. But what I am saying is that, when we watch these things, they sell us dreams. Things are forceful. There is no conversation about consent. It just starts with sex most of the time. Sometimes there's a bit of scenery. But we don't see consent, In fact, there is even certain videos that actually, act out rape. Where girls are like, no. The man is like, yes. And then, people like that. It gives them a certain
rush.
A rush. Watching women be beneath men. Most men like to be dominated and whatnot, but most men enjoy, that control and power. And that's why we know that rape is not about attraction. It's not about whether I'm attracted to you, whether you're cute or not. Attraction is a bonus. Rape is about power and control. I want to have this control over you. I want to have this power over you. And that's what we're seeing in porn. And we're seeing that actually young people, especially when they're really young, in school age, they're watching this porn. That's what they expect sex to be like. In porn, there is no conversation about moving, going from vaginal sex to anal sex. Whereas in real life, you have to ask for consent, because if you have vaginal sex, the person consented to vaginal sex. If you do not ask if they want to have anal sex with you, you've raped them. Because they consented to one thing. It's not a consent for one, cover all bases. Buy one, get one free. That's not how consent works. You consent to every single act. And in porn, those conversations are not had. You just move from one position to another, and before you know it, there's 5 other people in the room, and suddenly it's all good and hunky-dory. That's not how life works. That's why, a lot of women experience rape by multiple men. Because people assume that's okay, that's what women want. Who told you that? But porn kind of shows that. It kind of makes the young people feel like, actually, that's okay, that's something women like, that's something women want. And it makes men have a wrong perception of what sex is like. And so in your head, masculinity, in order for sex to be good, in order for you to be the man, it has to be wild. It has to be aggressive. It has to be all of that you see in porn in order for you to be really the man. And really and truly, unless somebody's consenting, you can't be slapping them up, can't be spitting on their face and all that stuff. I'm not saying that's what they say. Yeah, no, that's what I heard. But you can't be doing all of that.
I don't know what you're hearing.
That's what I heard. That's what the streets are saying.
Okay, I'll rock with that. So I think someone even put a comment.
Sally's aunties and uncles give us their marriage examples of how they played hard to get for a long period of time, and then the chase game led to marriage. Yeah, loads of our aunties and uncles were coerced into marriage, 100%. 100% coerced into marriage. There was nobody else, so they went for it in the end. Like, things that worked maybe 30, 40 years ago just genuinely don't work today. Like, things that may have been seen as okay only because there was no rules and regulations then and no laws about it are just not okay today. There are laws against this. And so, I remember my auntie say that as well, and he asked me multiple times, and, he came to my work. And at this point, it's stalking and harassment. You can go to jail. You're going to jail. They call that stalking and harassment. I will report you to the police. Do stalk me. It's stalking. How dare you? And, in those days, it might have been okay, but now it puts real fear in women, especially women in domestic abusive relationships. It's real fear having somebody stalking you, having somebody follow you, knowing where you are, waiting for you after work, waiting for you at school. And that's how a lot of men groom little girls. Stalking. So yeah, it might have been cute 30 years ago. Today, yeah, it's definitely wrong. It's definitely wrong.
Damn. I hear that. Let me check my other topic we had. Because we spoke quite a bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things to mention as well, I guess, is that rape culture teaches people not to be raped when it should be we're teaching people not to rape.
Ooh.
You know, rape culture teaches people not to get raped when really and truly we should be teaching not to rape. You know, that is the conversation we should be having. And so we're telling women, don't put in headphones when you're walking at night. Don't walk alone. Carry your keys between your fingers. Have this. But it's illegal to carry pepper spray. I carry a knife. I can't carry pepper spray, but how am I supposed to be helping myself here? But, you know, carry your keys between your fingers and all that stuff, you know, protect yourself, do this. When really and truly, why do I have to do all of that when really and truly you just shouldn't rape? It's that simple. It's that simple. Why should I have to prepare myself and do all of this when really and truly, y'all should just not be touching me? I should be able to walk butt naked on the street and nobody should touch me. I should be able to do that without consequence.
So how would you flip it then? So rather than teaching girls how to not to avoid rape, what would it look like to kind of educating men not to go into that? I know it sounds mad, but
no, it's true. I think it would look like having workshops from early on. Actually, let's go all the way back.
Okay.
When you were like 3 years old, you know, or when you were like 4 years old, when you're in kindergarten, and boys are playing with girls and they're a bit harsh, you know, pulling hair, and mothers are saying it's because he likes you. We're teaching girls that men that are mean to us really like us. Let's go all the way back when our parents are beating us and saying it's because I love you. Teach me that love comes with pain. We're teaching me that when somebody else does that to me, it's okay because they love me. And so when men are abusing women in their relationships, the excuse, you know, it's because I love you so much. You know, it's because you stress me out so much. I love you. That's why I beat you. And then I'll buy you flowers and make you feel good. You know, like your mom will say, "Oh, come and eat. Come and eat." And that's not good. And when we're having these conversations where we're saying, you know what, boys will be boys, you know, it's because he likes you, we're beating our children, we're saying it's because I love you. No, you're beating them either to discipline them or because you're frustrated with yourself. Has nothing to do with love. Most of us were abused in childhood by our parents. We can laugh about it now, but when they were getting the bell or the Hoover stick or whatever came down your direction, you know, my mom was very talented with the slipper. It will catch you wherever. Like, you just know, listen. It would
around the corner.
You just don't know. And so we can laugh about it now, but if we think about it, you know, for some of us, it's fine. But for most women, it didn't work out so well. You know, it didn't work out so well. And so we need to stop, like, from early age. Let's not do that. If your son is bullying a girl in school, don't do that. That's not right. Do that. When my nephew is pulling me and touching me, I tell him, you can't touch me without asking me. You know, if somebody wants to kiss him, you should ask, can I kiss you? Why are you just kissing people's children? Why are we allowing this? And why are we forcing children to sit on uncle's laps? Or go sit on their lap? Why are children kiss this person, kiss him? Oh, auntie said kiss her. And your children are crying and you're still making them kiss. You're teaching them that they don't have boundaries. From early age, we're telling them you do not have boundaries. You have no right to have boundaries. Let's have these conversations. Let's not feed into that. Children are allowed to have their boundaries. If my nephew decides not to kiss somebody, he doesn't want to kiss the person. End of story. I'm not fighting you on that. You have a right to choose who touches you. You know? And like, even I hold myself accountable. Like, you know, my pastor has a daughter, a beautiful daughter, one of my older pastors. And like, when she was a bit younger, she was bougie. Oh my God, she couldn't even hold her without crying. God damn it. But she's so cute. And I remember before, I used to like just take her and just, she would be crying, I'd be like, whatever. But now I think about it, that's not right. She doesn't want me to touch her. I need to respect those boundaries. Whether she's old or whether she's 20 years old.
Wow.
You know? And somebody, I think a few years ago, there was a woman that came on Good Morning Britain, and she must have said, I asked my toddler whether I could change his nappies. The whole world went mad. Everyone said, why would you do that? That's ridiculous. Feminism going too extreme, blah, blah, blah. I think that's brilliant. She's teaching her. She's clearly not going to say, when he said, the toddler doesn't say no, clearly, because the toddler doesn't speak yet. But you're teaching your child from early that even as a mom, even as a parent, I don't have a right to cross your boundaries.
Wow.
Even as a parent, I don't have a right to just cross your boundaries like that, regardless of who I am. So yeah, let's have these conversations from early. So I think it starts all the way back from there. You know, telling boys that if you like somebody, you are nice to them. You just tell them that you like them. If you bully someone, it's not because you like them. You bully them. That's nasty behavior. You don't do that no more. Yeah, let's be early with that. If children don't want to be kissed, they don't want to be kissed. Let's read our children's body language. If you send your child to a nanny, and the child comes back crying and screaming their eyes out, and the next time you're sending them that they don't want to go, maybe something happened there. You know, I know our parents, like, you know, they worked really hard and therefore you would go to anyone. Let's not repeat those mistakes, because that's how a lot of children were abused in their childhood. And the child was silent, the child was crying, the child was telling you, I'm not going. You just thought the child was difficult. The child wasn't being difficult. The child was experiencing things you can't even imagine. So that's how we see a lot of abuse happening in the church as well. You know, let's get into it. How many black churches have DBS checks for their children's school teachers? You're telling me that I'm sending my child to Sunday school and none of y'all have DBS checks, not even the pastor? Huh? You could be a sexual offender for all I know. We don't know nothing. We don't check nothing. We do not check nothing. That's how children are groomed. Not a DBS, not any checks. You know, the thing is not telling me how many minutes we've got left, so I'll keep going.
Touch the live. Should tell you.
Oh, we have like 2 minutes left. Guys, if we go, please come back. We'll be back. But yeah, we have no okay, one minute.
Okay, let's go and come back.
Okay, let's go and come back, guys. We'll be back.
We'll be back. Hey!